This is a D6 Generation Pip. Bite-sized content for a busy gamer. Sometimes featuring Craig, sometimes featuring Russ.
Hey, what about me?
Oh yeah, and sometimes featuring Raef, Hollywood, Granger.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Raef, Hollywood, Granger, and I wanted to wish you a good morning, a good afternoon, or a good evening for whatever time you're listening to this little segment. I thought I would take some time to discuss my hobby of MMO raiding in the Burning Crusade Classic. So this entire segment will be about MMO play in the world of WoW. So therefore, if that topic's not interesting to you, I would click off and go listen to Russ, Craig, or of course one of our D&D episodes, or your favorite podcast. But you never know. I wax on about different things as I go along. And this is in memory of Phil, who recently just passed away. He was one of our D6G listeners, and I think I might have mentioned this on the show a couple times. And he was a great guy, and he had instant messaged me or direct messaged me a little while ago, and he was like, Raef, I really enjoyed your segments. I wish you would put your content back out there. So in memory of Phil, I decided for this year that is what I was going to do. Okay, so here's what I've done. If you are part of the Discord channel, which I do believe, I apologize, I should get this right. I'll find out from Russ. If you're part of the Patreon, I do believe that gives you access to the Discord channel, and I'm putting in there a link that just came out that describes the process one needs to go through to get attuned to the next set of raids, and I thought I would go through that. So if you want to follow along with what I'm reading, you can find that link in the Discord channel. And of course, you could probably just Google it, and it'll pull up in a variety of different websites and stuff. So my fascination with raiding began 10 years ago when I would hear people playing WoW. I did not start out playing WoW, and they would talk about this thing called a raid. And they would say to me, well, it's like a 25-person dungeon. And I'm like, okay, but why is it called a raid instead of just a 25-person dungeon? And why is it different from a dungeon? And they would give me this explanation, and I never flipping understood it. Well, now I understand it. And I've recorded some segments a little bit about this, but what I'm understanding what it means to be a raider is that, number one, you're part of a team, okay? And in this instance, it's a 25-person team. Now, you can have 20 people on your team, and then you can call out inside the game, inside the chat channels. It's called looking for more or looking for group, and you can call out and say, hey, need 5 in order to run this raid. And that's called pugging, P-U-G, pugging, and it stands for pickup groups. We could have a whole segment on pugs, the pros and cons of pugs, and the pros and cons of looking for group tools. But in the Burning Crusade Classic, which I'll now just refer to as the Burning Crusade, in the Classic version, they rolled things back, and you have to do it old school by using your words and shouting out in channels to look for people to want to join your raid. You can walk in the door with 20 people, but you would die. You could walk in the door with 24 people. You can kill some things with 24, but not all. Not all things. But you need 25. So number one, raiding means you're part of a team, and what that also means is when your guild decides to raid, like I raid on Tuesday nights, if I don't go, I'm letting down 24 people. So there's a level of commitment there. One of the other things it means is your character needs to have the right consumables to be able to go through the raid. These are called elixirs, flasks, or potions, which are shortened to pots. So when I'm going through on my mage character, I need to have mana potions so that when I run out of mana during a fight, that I can consume that. I need to have this flask is called the Flask of Pure Death, and a cool name. And that gives me more mage powers. And the other consumables I need are potions of destruction. On top of that, I also need food. Now, all of these things can be made, and this is the chain of why these games are so addictive, or at least addictive to me. On my other character, who's the tank character, I have an alchemist. Alchemists can make potions. I don't have the recipes for Potion of Destruction or the Flask of Pure Death. For Potion of Destruction, you look it up on the internet, you find out where it, quote, drops. It can drop from what we call mobs. Mobs are called monsters out in the world. That's what we like a D&D monster walking around. They can drop from dungeons. So this is what creates this sort of chain of always playing and what we call grinding, because I might be out trying to kill, I don't know, these giant boars, hoping that the recipe for the Potion of Destruction drops so that I can make my own potions. Now, the other thing one can do to get ready for raid, if I need a Potion of Destruction, is I can buy it on the auction house. And how do I buy it on the auction house? Well, I can make the mana pots. So I might go out and farm the herbs to create the mana pots, to sell mana pots, to get gold, to buy Potion of Destructions that I find on the auction house from those alchemists that have that recipe. Okay, but back to what all this means. So to be part of a raid team is, if you just don't want to play on Tuesday night, you're letting 24 people down, so there's a commitment level. And then you also need consumables. And in order to get your consumables, one needs gold to be able to buy the stuff that you need, or have a guildmate make it for you. But you also don't want to be a mooch and just mooch off of your guildmates, because they need their money too. So that's where the term grinding comes in. Is, let's say that my mage is a miner, and so I'll run around the world looking for nodes, to mine the nodes, to sell the nodes, to be able to buy the pots that I need and the different consumables. And you need about 50 gold to 60 gold in total to raid each time. And, if I spend an hour mining nodes, assuming I can find the nodes, meaning other people have not mined them because you're competing for the resources on the world, I can, you can sell that ore for like 10 to 25 gold. So, maybe 1 hour to 2 hours worth of work between a week to get the gold you need to do your raiding. Now, the other thing you need in order to raid, this is to walk in the door, is your character needs to be geared appropriately for that level raid. So the newer raids, the bosses are much tougher, and you need to have the right gear, and you look it up, and that's called Best in Slot, or BIS. BIS. And I look it up on the web, and it'll say, get this hood, get this cape, get these pair of boots, get these shoes, and they'll give options. And some of these you can get by questing, which means you can do it by yourself. Some of these you can do by dungeon runs, which means then you've got to find the members of your guild to go run a dungeon run. Or you can do pugs, and you can run dungeons and try to get the gear. When the gear drops in the dungeon, you don't automatically get it. Number one, it's random that it'll drop from the monster. Number two, you might be in there with other classes that can use that exact same piece of gear. So that means you have to do /roll, which rolls a die between 1 and 100. High score wins. So there's a lot of randomness to it. And frankly, I think that's why people like the game. Like, I love going to the casino and gambling. I love to play the game of craps. Maybe that'll be another podcast one day. I love teaching people craps. But there's a certain randomness to this, which keeps people going through and going through and going through the content, hence the word grind. Now, sometimes the grind sounds like it is a grind, really wears on you and you want to quit. It was interesting. I was talking to good old buddy Dave Farr, fellow podcaster, and he is recently really into playing the game Satisfactory, which I think is a mining conveyor belt factory building game. And I was commenting to him that I might just download and play that for a while because I was getting frustrated. I wanted to make some crafting goggles on my mage engineer, and I have the recipe, but I don't have the materials called mats. And I was running around the world, and I couldn't find the mats because there are people that just farm and they eat up all the mats. I couldn't find the mats. But when you play a game like Satisfactory, The mats are always there because you're just in your own world. But there's something to be said for the fact that I must like it that the materials are not just always there. I like the randomness of the loot table. I like the fact that when I log in the morning, I know that there are 1,000 people running around in the world. Even if I only see 10 of them, I can sometimes feel alone when playing like Valheim or Ark or Satisfactory, which I've not downloaded. I know that I'm there all by myself, and it feels lonely. I feel like I'm in a giant echo chamber. So I think that's one of the reasons, and I know that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy playing MMOs, is I know there's other people in the world running around and do stuff, even though I'm frustrated when I'm trying to find herbs to make a potion and I can't find any because they've already been picked. Now, they do reset, but nobody knows what the timer is, and you can't just stand there for 10 minutes and it'll pop up again. You know, it resets at some random time. So that's getting ready with gear and with consumables. Now let's talk about what my prediction talked about, which is an attunement process. Now, again, I never played the Burning Crusade back in the day. I didn't know what attunement meant, and this is what it meant for those people raiding back in the day when they would say it was like a job. Okay, so I'm reading in the link, which is, if you scroll down to the middle, this is what it says. On January 27th, the new raid, the Battle for Mount Hyjal, preserve the outcome of the pivotal battle for Mount Hyjal and ensure the demon Archimonde meets his fate. No idea what Archimonde is. I'm so terrible with the lore. I never know what any of it means. It lists the bosses we'll face, what level you need to be in, the locations, the Caverns of Time, which is a location I know where that is. Players must be attuned, term of art in MMOs, to enter the instance. Read about it below, and you can win rewards by improving your reputation standing with the Scale of Sands, which is a reputation thing, I guess, and then you can get different rewards for just raising your reputation. We'll talk about that in a minute. The new raid, the Black Temple, so there's 2 new raids coming out. Mount Hyjal and the Black Temple. Now, at the time of recording the podcast, I thought I'd have to go to the attunement process of the 2 raids prior, which was called Serpent Shrine, Cavern, and Tempest Keep. But when you heard me say, oh, guys, they've changed it, when WoW rolls out later content. So this raid did not exist on day 1 of launch of Burning Crusade. Okay, that you can't even walk in the door, regardless of attunement or anything, until January 27th. You know, they roll the content out in phases, and so when they do that, they make the prior raids a little bit easier, both with more loot drops. They downscale the monsters. And they do that so that earlier characters or other characters or people joining the game today can get into that content to get the gear. Remember that best in slot? That's where you get it from. And so it enables you to get the gear to be able to walk into the newer content, gear-wise. And that's part of what's called a progressive raid team. So I'm on what's called a progressive casual raid team. The progression part means the raid as a team, as a group, we've decided that we want to get into the new content as soon as possible. And so what that means is I have an obligation as a 1 member out of 25 to be ready, to be attuned, to go into the content as soon as possible. If I don't do my job of my character, what I'm about to read to you, well, then they won't be able to go in, and I'm kind of ruining the fun for other people, or they'll have to pug it. Now, the casual part means this guild understands you got life, you got job, you got kids. You might be able to say you can play Tuesday, but the last minute you can't because your daughter needs help with homework, and they go, cool. So like at any time, I could be like, hey guys, I just can't get this stuff done. They're like, no problem, man. I could be playing on what we call an alternative character, level 20, just because I need to veg out for a little bit and I don't want to have to grind. And they're like, cool. So that's the part of being casual. They want to progress, but not at the expense of real life. I really, really enjoy that. We've got some really good raid leaders. I'm sure those of you out there listening to this content could hear and have stories to talk about monster raid leaders and stuff. But serious raid teams, no. Real life does not come first. You are committed to this raid. You need to get the content done by the due date that they say so that they can walk in the door. So in this case, January 27th. So here's what we need to do. Players must be attuned to enter the instance. Read below. Blah, blah, blah. Epic gems are going to be available from Cavern of Times. Don't even know what epic gems do. Oh, epic gems can be obtained from the Battle of Mount Hyjal. That's the first raid. Through mining, 375 mining skill. Yay, I have 375 mining skill. So it looks like I can get these epic gems. No idea what they're used for. But if they're rare and hard drops, then most likely I'll be able to sell them on the auction house and make that coin I was telling you about. Serpent Shrine Cavern and Tempest Keep Loop, those are the two prior raids. They're dropping an additional gear set. Awesome. That makes what I just told you easier to get gear. Okay. To complete the battle for Mount Hyjal and Black Temple Attunement, we have to do these things, and they're for each character. So that's another big distinction in playing classic WoW versus retail WoW. I'm going to do this on my mage. If I want to tomorrow go through this with my warrior tank, I need to do this whole process again on this other character. So again, pros and cons about this. The good thing about that is really focuses you to focus on one character, which is kind of cool. Retail WoW, it morphed into people kind of said, we don't like that, and so then it becomes what's known as account bound, which means just Raef Granger the person. If I have 20 characters and I do an attunement process, which frankly, I don't even think there is attunement in retail WoW. I think they got rid of that completely. Then you just walk right in the dungeon. But that's what's drawing people to play Classic, is they want to go back to these old school restraints. Okay. To access the battle for Mount Hyjal, we must first travel to the Caverns of Time, know where that is, find Sora Dormy. Have no idea what that guy does. He's going to offer the quest, the Vials of Eternity, to those who are at least revered with the Keepers of Time. So, this is what I was trying to describe to Russ and Craig. I can't even get that quest unless I'm of the revered reputation level with the Caverns of Time. Now, I don't have this up in front of me, but the different revere... You know what? Hold on. Let me just get it up in front of me. Okay. So in order to get the quest, to even begin the attunement process, you have to be revered with the Caverns of Time, which is a faction. Here are their levels: friendly, honored, revered, and exalted. So third from the top. You start friendly. You have to earn 60,000 reputation points in order to get to honored. Reputation points are like experience points. You can do various quests. Quests can give you an average of about 300 reputation points per solving quests. Some give you 150, some give you 500, some give you 1,000. Earning reputation in a game such as this is a whole art in and of itself. There are guides and guides and guides that'll teach you what quests to do in what order, to get what items that help you boost reputation. I mean, it's a whole thing. I can't even imagine what the game was like. It must have really used a lot of crowdsourcing and people knowledge, which would be really cool, because now I just Google it and it gives me the reputation guide and the steps to take and what quests to do and where to start. But back in the day, you didn't have that on the internet, and those players had to rely on each other. So, in other words, let's say that I happen to be 5,000 reputation with friendly at the time of Caverns of Time. Well, now I got to find another 1,000 reputation points, so I've got to do those quests to get to honored. Then I have to get 12,000 reputation points, just like experience points, to get to revered. Okay, so I run dungeons, I do quests, I do hours and hours and hours and hours of content. Now I'm revered. I go back to this guy, Sora Dormy, and I get the quest called the Vials of Eternity. Okay. Gaining entry to the Black Temple. This is the second raid. To go face Illidan Stormrage. Now, he's a famous person within the WoW lore. I've seen his name a lot. I don't really know what he did. I don't know why I'm facing him. I'm so bad on the lore. We have to go to Shadow Moon Valley, know where that is, seek out Anchorite Selah. I have no idea what that is. At the Altar of Shatar, if you're this faction, which I'm not, or Arcanist Thelis at the Sanctum of the Stars, which is the Scryers faction, which I am, and complete the following quests. Okay, now how to find that guy. Here are the quests I have to complete to walk into Black Temple. Tablets of Ba'ari, the Arnar the Elder, and again, if you want to follow along in the Discord channel, I've put the link here. The Ash Tongue Corruptors, the Warden's Cage, Proof of Allegiance, Akama, Seer Ardalo, A Mysterious Portent, the Atomal Terrace, number 10, there's more, Akima's Promises. Okay? After completing Akima's Promises, the quest chain continues inside the Serpentine Cavern, which is the raid before. So you got to be with your 25-person team and go into that raid. Look for Seer Olam after defeating Fathom Lord Karathis to pick up the next quest. So you have to go to the other raid and kill this boss. Then, once you do that, so that puts a week delay right there because most raid teams raid within a week. And I think the content is actually even gated where when I walk in the door of Serpentine Cavern, I have to walk in within so many days or the door gets shut. I don't know how that works. Sorry, guys. I don't want to go too far down that path. But we go to that raid, kill the thing, get the quest. Okay, number 11. The Secret Compromised, Ruse of the Ash Tongue, an Artifact from the Past. To do that, we got to go into the Battle of Mount Hyjal raid to continue that quest. Number 14, the Hostage Soul. Number 15, entry into the Black Temple. Number 16, a distraction for Akama. After completing that, we'll be awarded the Medallion of Karabor, which allows its wearer to walk into the Black Temple. So, 16 quests to get attuned into the Black Temple. Now, those 16 quests aren't one and done. I don't just do Tablets of Ba'ari 1 and go click to the next one. Sometimes you do. Other times, one of those, step number 4 might have 4 to 5 quests or sub-quests within that quest. Like, go here, do this, go kill these 10 boars, come back, do that, go over there, grab a gem, come back, that type of thing. And the other thing that's interesting that takes real lifetime is time in the game. So, again, part of the allure of Classic and why people like this is I have a mount. And that mount flies at a certain speed. So in order for me to go to this quest guy and that quest guy across the world, I hop on my mount and I fly. And it's at a certain speed. So, it can take to go from one corner of the map to another corner of the map. Flying can take literally 20 minutes. Now, they do have auto flight points, but you don't teleport there. Some games, you click a button like Final Fantasy XIV, you can teleport around the map. You can click a button and appear, whoop, in real time, appear in another corner of the map. Here, I have to fly to a city, takes 3 minutes, hop on a flight point, click the button, go get coffee for 20 minutes, fly to the other flight point if it's across the whole globe, a corner of the map, and it literally takes 20 minutes. So that's part of the game. It takes actual physical time. That's why there's so many people who didn't have lives, because it took real life time to get to one point to get to the other. Okay, so I'm all hyped up about it because I'm, excited to share this with you. So, where I am on my mage is I have no idea where I am on entry to Mount Hyjal. I'm going to have to check my reputation levels there. And I think I'm on quest number 4 for entry to the Black Temple. And our raid leaders are saying, hey guys, we'd like to get into the raid as soon as it opens, January 27th, as soon as possible. So guys, get your attunement quests done. So I kind of have homework, so to speak. Now, overall, I'm finding it fun. I don't find it frustrating. I wake up in the morning, I drink my coffee, I throw some stuff on Netflix, and I run through the content. It does get a little frustrating when certain stuff I need to get when running into a dungeon, because I'd rather run it with my whole guildmate, but there might not be people on at the time that I'm on, and they want to run that particular dungeon. So, I jump in and I pug. When you pug as a tank, tanks are very valuable, tanks and healers, you need those. So I can get in a pug, But the tank has a certain responsibility to, they're sort of the leader of the dungeon, and they need to know the dungeon very well, the bosses very well, how to complete the pulls, which is to grab a monster and pull it to a certain area so you don't pull too many at once and die. And, I know how to play my class really well, but I don't know the dungeons like the back of my hand. So sometimes what'll happen is you'll get the chatter from the group where they'll be like, this tank sucks, or this tank doesn't know what he's doing, or that's where you hear about the community, and they'll kind of razz you a little bit. And I don't play this game to have somebody, quote, yelling at me, end quote, because I don't know some stupid dungeon. So I get a little fearful to go into pugs as a tank because I don't want to be yelled at. Now, as a mage, zero problem, because I'm what's called a DPS character. I just stand in the back, launch my fireballs, and my only job's not to pull the monster off of the tank, which I do know how to do, so I don't get any gripes there. I just pew, 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 and kill the things and go through. So as a mage, it's a lot easier to pug. Now, community-wise, you'll hear, if any of you that are into MMOs are hearing about Final Fantasy XIV, they are known for having a glorious, glorious community. And I've played Final Fantasy up to level 40 characters, and I like it. But I keep getting sucked back into wanting to play Classic, I think because I like the old school hardcore of it. But yes, in those dungeons, nobody yells at you at all. And I have to say, in Classic WoW, 1 out of 25 pugs will somebody give you attitude. The community is generally very, very, very kind when running pugs, I have found. Retail? Oh my gosh. You take one step to the right that they consider wrong, you'll have 5 people booting you from the group. It's ridiculous. I do not enjoy the community in retail version of WoW at all. So, but I do want to say that I found the classic community to be pretty spot on. Okay, so I think that's it. So we've got Stony Sprink the Mage, step 4 of the Black Temple attunement, step, don't know, on the Mount Hyjal attunement. I think, to be honest with you, I think I have the right reputation level. I think I must have just gotten it as I played the game. So I think I'm okay there. I'm going to check when I log in after this. And the only other challenge and thing I'm doing is working on figuring out what I'm going to do to make gold within the game to be able to buy those consumables that I talked to you about. So that's the attunement process, Russ and Craig, on what I need to do to get into the next 2 raids. Hey, thanks for listening. If you have an idea of a topic that you want to hear about, just, again, if you're in the Discord channel, just throw it in the channel. If you want to email me, you can email me at hollywood@the d6generation.com. I wanted to fool around with doing screen capture and showing some stuff on WoW on YouTube and stuff. So I created a spin-off YouTube channel. It's called the D6G Hollywood on YouTube. I think all of right now I have 1 view on 1 video, which is totally fine. I'm doing this more as a personal pet project, but I didn't put video for this podcast, but in the I could, I suppose, edit something in the future. But sometimes I'm just going to throw the camera on, share what I'm doing inside the game for anybody who's interested, or if anybody wants some instructional videos. That's always my intention, is people that might be like, I want to try this MMO thing. I've never really done it before, but I don't even know where to begin. And again, if that's of interest to you and you want to know that, just throw it in the comments, throw me an email, or just reach out to me, and I can talk about covering that content, at least as far as I know it. Hey, thanks for listening. Have a great morning, a great afternoon, or a great evening, and happy gaming.
Achievement unlocked! You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by emailing us at info@thed6generation.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.